The Struggling Artist Record Club is a vinyl record subscription service where I hunt and curate the best punk and punk-adjacent music out there and mail their record to your door each and every month. Imagine finding your new favorite band from across the country without ever having to leave the house. It doesn't get much better than that. The excitement of discovering new music just got that much easier. As a member of the Struggling Artist Record Club, you are going to receive some of the best music you've ever heard from bands you may never even heard of. Whether you've been collecting records for years or just starting out, the Struggling Artist Record Club is designed specifically for you. And right now, all new members get a Struggling Artist Record Club exclusive along with the monthly selection. So head to StrugglingArtistRecordClub.com, pick a membership, and start building that collection today. When I got the text from Dave, or the group text, I guess, right? He was like, I knew who you were. Like, we've met a couple times, and like I've been listening to your music for a long time. So when he was like explaining, I'm like, oh no, I know who TJ is.
All right.
So yeah, thanks for wanting to do this. This is this is for me. I love, like, I'm a New England music like fanatic. Like I'm a total homer when it comes to music. So primarily all I listen to is, I listen to things outside of here, and I interview people from outside of New England and stuff, but like I always happen to bring up how rich the music is here, you know?
Yeah, we've really fortunate to be living in such a great area for music and culture.
I think so. So yeah, I went and checked out. So I hadn't seen anything from TJ Welch and The Wasted before. I knew of you guys because I saw like flyers for your shows. I hadn't been able to get to a show yet. So I found a video you guys did. You did Sonic Lobotomy as the band, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I checked that out and I was listening to it and I liked it. And it's different. It's different than some of the other projects I've heard you on, which is cool, right? So it's a little bit different. Let's get it. I don't know. Let's go back. When did you start playing music? Like, when did you get involved in like the music community out here?
Oh, well, when I was a young kid, my early teens, maybe, 11, 12 years old, I got turned on to some good music by my older cousin. Turned me on to some great bands, and he stayed over our house for like a whole year because his parents kicked him out, and so he stayed with us. Well, he tried to get sober. He was a nice guy, Chris Marino. He's a TV producer now out in Colorado. But he gave me all these albums. He bought his album collection. He had all sorts of great stuff, the Stones and Beatles and, all that Grateful Dead stuff. So turned me on to a lot of music when I was like 10 years old. And then I started listening to, more music, became obsessed with music, watching music on TV and at Saturday Night Live. I saw Gary Newman like in 1979 when he was on. I was just, wow, this is cool. So I went to see him. I made my father take me because I was too young to see him at the Orpheum. And just got into punk and new wave from that. And at the time in the early 80s, there was a pretty good hardcore punk scene in Boston. It was really a special time. Lots of bands like DYS, Jerry's Kids, SSD Control. So I'd go to shows. A lot of shows are at VFWs, all ages shows. I'm 15 years old and not old enough to get into clubs. So just really got into music. And my father gave me an acoustic guitar about that point. He was trying to learn, but he just couldn't pick it up, And so I started playing and took a few lessons, and then I got a electric guitar, a Fender, and played with some friends. A real good friend of mine taught me how to play. His name is Chris Parslin. He just passed away last year, but he did that movie, The Boys from Nowhere, which is a documentary on the rat in the Boston music scene in the '70s. You know, bands like the Neighborhoods and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So he was a good friend of mine all my life, and he was a real talented guitar player. He taught me how to play most of the licks I know. And then I went to college. I went to Fitchburg State and had a couple roommates who played. So I picked up a Gibson and a Marshall and played in college and played in Jan, played in a few cover bands. And then after college, me and my brother, I taught my brother how to play bass, and I got him singing. We had a band that did like half covers and half originals. They were called Ramp. Uh, and sometime in the early '90s, I was looking to join a more serious band, and a lot was happening in the music scene back then. You know, grunge was coming up, and um, I saw in the Boston Phoenix, Al Baril from SSD Control had an ad. He was looking for a guitar player to start a band, and I loved SSD Control. So I answered the ad, and we got together, and we recruited a singer and a drummer, and another guitar player. Francois from SSD played with us, and we had a band called Gauge. And we consciously did not want to play, be SSD Part 2. We wanted to be more, relevant to the times. I think our sound was a little more mainstream rock and roll, perhaps it could be described as grunge. So I spent about 5 or 6 years playing in that band Gaged. We did about 2 or 3 CDs with Al, uh, and still keep in touch with Al. He's a great guy. And had a lot of fun playing in Gage, but toward the end of Gage, they were getting more like into bands like Korn and things like that, and I was wanted to get back to the roots, to punk rock, the stuff that I liked most of all. And I'm not really an incredible guitar player. Haven't, never been, never will be. Don't try to be. But I figured, I can play in a punk band. Um, and I was working as a sales guy, and one of the reps that I knew, we liked a lot of the same bands, Black Flag and all the punk stuff. So we decided to form a band, which was the Blue Bloods. That was about 1999. And we did a few albums with the Blue Bloods, played a lot of hardcore punk influenced stuff. It was great. We went to Europe in 2003. We did 30 days in Europe with Blood for Blood and Slapshot. It
That's
was fun.
a hell of a lineup right there. The
It
three
was
bands.
best time of my life. We just played every city in Germany and all over Europe. 3 bands from Boston in a big bus, and I got to see Blood for Blood and Slapshot every night. And um, but at that time, me and my wife were having kids.
Yep.
And the Blue Bloods wanted to play, Syracuse, New York on one day, and then the next weekend play, Philly or whatever. I just didn't want to do that. So I kind of eased out of the Blue Bloods. I'm still friends with them, and occasionally I can inspire them or to get back together, and they'll do a gig a year, or every 2 years they'll do a gig, but they're really not officially back together, but
Yeah.
they'll still play a gig. Um,
Yeah, they
but
played one this past summer, I believe.
yeah,
Yeah,
with
yeah. Drago, right?
Drago, because Drago got back together.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Mike from Darkbuster,
Yep.
with the
Yep.
girly cell phone number. Right? You ever heard that song,
No,
Darkbuster?
no,
Yeah,
no, no. Yeah.
yeah, it's Mike Gurley, great guy. So yeah, I played in the Blue Bloods, and then I left the Blue Bloods and spent some time helped my wife out with babies. We had 3 boys, one after another, and um, but I just couldn't get that music out of me. Right? I had songs written. I still had my studio in the cellar. I had a couple ADAT machines, which is the way to record digitally back then. They were like VCRs, right?
Mm.
And that's what we did a lot of the Blue Bloods stuff on, those ADATs. So, I'd invite drummers over and stuff like that and work on songs. And before I knew it, I had a bunch of songs ready, and I just started to get people together. I knew this guy, Mark Powers, good bass player. So we formed the Welch Boys.
Mm.
about 2004. I knew another drummer who didn't know anything about punk rock, but he was a good drummer, Ronnie. God rest his soul. He passed about 10 or 15 years ago. But so it was Ronnie on drums, me, Mark Powers on bass, and then we got who the hell else do we get? Oh, we got another friend of mine who just didn't know punk at all. He was a metal player, PJ on guitar. He was incredible, and we needed a singer. And I remembered when we were on that tour, the Back on the Map tour in Europe, and we would play a Bone Crusher song called "Hell, I've Been There" every night. The Blue Bloods would play that, and the guitar player from Slapshot, Ed Lally, would come up and sing the song with us. And I was like, this guy could sing. So I kind of reached out to him and says, "Hey, you want to sing on some songs that we got done?" And he was cool with it, and he sang on them, and kind of decided to join us. And he was playing with us and Slapshot around 2005, 6, 7 at the same time. But he got so he didn't want to tour Europe all the time. Slapshot plays Europe a lot, and
Mm.
so he kind of left Slapshot and joined us as our singer, and has been our singer ever since. So we've been around for 20 years. Had
With,
had personal changes, but we
yeah, not a whole lot. It doesn't seem though, right?
been through a few drummers. Our first drummer, Ronnie, was a great guy, but just got caught in the. Uh, it's funny. Like, during practice, we would, smoke a bone or whatever, and drink beers, and he would never touch any drugs, but he crushed his fingers at work, and they gave him some painkillers, and kind of
Yeah,
that led to him going down that spiral.
yeah. It's a story all this time nowadays.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's sometimes the addiction comes from just from a doctor prescribing stuff. You got to be
Yeah,
careful.
yeah,
But I miss Ronnie. He was a great guy, and he played on our first album. So we got other drummers. We got Sam from Toxic Narcotic, who was amazing. He played on a couple of our albums, and then Sam left to because we weren't, we're not making money. We're playing
yeah.
punk rock, and Sam had an opportunity to be in a band that could make a few $100 a night. So,
Hmm.
uh, so we got Jose, who's been in the Blue Bloods. He's been in a lot of different bands. He's from San Juan, Puerto Rico. Jose Morales, and he's our drummer right now, and he's a good drummer. And um, the other personnel change we had was last year. Our lead guitarist PJ left us because he's got young kids to focus on his kids, and we picked up a guy, Brian Tedesco, who was also in Penalty Kill. So he's our lead guitarist, and I'm our rhythm guitarist, and the other three, Mark Powers and Ed, have been in since the beginning.
Yeah.
Uh,
Now, how do you? I always ask this. How do you balance like music and family life, especially in the early days of like the Welch Boys, right?
yeah, it's 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 not that hard. I mean,
No.
I had always had two jobs too. I was a wedding DJ for 20 years. Uh, I don't know. If you don't play a 2 minute, if you understand that we're doing this band for fun, we're never going to make it real big. If you do, great. But, and so we'll do it as we can. We'll play, 4 or 5 gigs locally a year, maybe tour Europe every couple years. It worked out for us pretty good that we could do it on the side because everyone's in the band has got careers.
Mm.
I'm retired now, but for 40 years I sold fiber optic technology,
Hmm.
and then on the weekends, I DJ weddings, and just squirreled it away. So here I am, 59, retired, and I don't know. I want to go back to work. I don't know what
I,
to do.
I see you. I see you with all the stereo equipment though. That seems like that's a job in itself, man. Always moving that stuff around, right?
Yeah, about 10 years ago, I played Love Shack for the last time DJ, and I couldn't stand it anymore. The brides would just it's good money, but the brides would just drive me nuts. So I left that and I said, I need another side hustle. So I started buying and selling from estate sales. And I bought the stuff that I like, stereo equipment and guitars. And
Mm.
it turned into a pretty good side hustle. I mean, I got a Savers, right, which is a thrift store down the corner from me. I pop in there every day and pick up a $15 stereo that I can sell for 100 bucks turntable or whatever. It's kind
Mm-hmm.
of like the thrill of the chase, right? I'll go to a flea market and pick up stuff, and I like to fix it. So yeah, that keeps me busy.
Yeah.
I keep that side hustle going, and it's really helping to pay the bills. Um, so I'm fortunate to be able to retire. 59 years old, but I couldn't do it without that side hustle.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I'm getting more into like when I was younger, I was big into stereos and stuff like that, and car audio and then house stereos and stuff. And now I'm kind of getting back into the swing of it. And like, do you like when you find these things, do you kind of like rotate them into your own like like your system to
Oh
just
yeah,
try them out? Yeah, yeah.
I
So,
police the best stuff. I've got a nice stereo system in every room, right? Tube amps and um, yeah, I just the best stuff. If I like how something sounds, I'll hold on to it. I ain't gonna sell that. And uh,
hmm
but sometimes I sell a piece, and it's hard to let it go, like a guitar or a piece of stereo gear. But it's good money. It's cash money, so it's a good side hustle. But I mean, back to your original question, Trev. I
yeah.
think um, I think you can fit music into your life. It is a struggle, which such the name of your show, right? Struggling artist.
Mm.
It's a struggle to maintain, to pay the bills in the house, any house. My wife has always had a job too, so that helped. But it helps having a wife that's understanding of you know, that I like to do music.
Right.
Um, because we've had band members in the Welch Boys that haven't had that, and they're not in the Welch Boys anymore. You know,
hmm
um, so it helps to have her support. And some people go golfing a few times a week. My thing for the ever since I was younger was to play, record, and write music. Um,
hmm
so we've kind of, even though we've been around 20 years, we haven't done the things to make ourselves super commercially successful. Uh, but we've kept it going for that reason too. We've never gotten so intense like this band is our life, right?
Yeah.
And so it's been everyone in the Welsh Boys understands that this is a hobby. We work hard on it. It's certainly not a casual thing. When we call a practice, man, you got to be at the practice. It's like a sports team mentality.
hmm
Um, but hey, I've seen bands come and go, and we stayed together. So it's something that you can do. But at least for us, the we've been able to do it by doing it in moderation. We could
Yeah.
have months where we don't do anything.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, and you guys put out bangers. Like I remember the first time I heard the self-titled album. This was I'm originally from Rhode Island. I really got into Boston like punk a little late than most people who because like I wasn't here and it was before the internet kind of thing. I remember the first time I saw the Dropkick Murphys and they had local bands with them and I was just like, wow, what is this? You know what I mean? So it kind of opened up the doors for me. But I really hit my stride when like Pandora showed up.
Yeah.
Because I would make like a Dropkick Murphy station and it played a ton of just Boston local bands and that's how I found the Blue Bloods and then the Welch Boys were there. It was right around. It was probably right after, probably a year or so after the self-titled album came out and like all that stuff just hit like heavy rotation to a point where like that was like people have their comfort music and it's like usually like mainstream stuff. Like I had that, but like I also had this group of Boston bands that I would just listen to these albums over and over and over. And like to the point where like I forgot, like I didn't like, I just assumed like most bands weren't doing things anymore because I was just listening to the old albums. You know what I mean? So I had moved away, like I moved to Massachusetts in 2011 and then I left in 2018 for like 2 years and I came back and then I had the podcast then and it really opened up like just kind of getting more involved into like the local music and stuff. And I think right around that time, within that first year of me being back, you guys did the Bone Crusher split.
Oh
And
yeah. That was
And
our
I
last record. That was our last record.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I made sure I remember I saw, I think it was like a Facebook post or something about it. So I was like, oh man, is this like, so I went and I pre-ordered it. And then Mark over at State Line Records, he had like some on his web store. So I grabbed one from there. I was like trying to get both variants. So
Yeah.
so I got one of them. I got one of them in a frame over there, and then I got one that I
Oh,
play.
shit.
You know what I mean? So
That's an honor.
yeah, you can see I'm kind of a nut about records. So but yeah. So you guys have always been like your band has always been like a stable of mine for me, and I use like I don't know if it's good or bad, but I use all like the Boston bands that I love as like my that's like when I'm gauging newer bands that I'm listening to out, like whether they're from New England or not, like I use you guys as like all right, you got to be this level
Oh, jeez.
to get my attention or whatever. But so I will fast forward a little bit more. I didn't know if you guys were doing anything after that split or not. And then you did a show. Actually, I saw you guys like twice within a month. You did a show at the Midway. I think it was one of Loser Circle's like Christmas shows. And then you guys played with the Drowns, and I was going to see the Drowns, and I got to see you guys play like twice within like 2 months, which was awesome.
Yeah, they're good guys.
Yeah. So, I would say, and I know Rev, right? And like, he was like so pumped that you guys were playing that show with him. Like, and that dude's like he is like a walking, like, I don't know, and like museum of music. You know what I mean? Like he was telling me about bands that I'd never heard of, and like, and like,
He worked for Pearl Jam too.
oh, did he?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's from Seattle. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, like, and your guys, like, I always describe like your like bands like the Welch Boys, bands like the Ducky Boys, the Blue Bloods, Slapshot. Like, I'm like, that's just like Boston street rock. Like, that's what I just always called it that. Like, I get, like, you know what I mean? Like, to me, that's because that's the sound that where I heard it the first time was from there.
Yeah, it's really great. You can dig in deep, and there's a lot of good bands. It must be something in the water.
No doubt. And I see you out there at shows. I've run into you once or twice at shows. I think I saw you at the Iron Roses played a show at Medford. Was it Medford where they played Deep Cuts? They played Deep Cups. I ran into you there one night. And so I mean, like, you're out there. You're in the community, which is awesome. What have you seen? Has there been a lot of change as far as like interactions with the community that you've seen over the last 25, 30 years or however long you've been playing music?
Yeah. People come and go. You get your regulars that come to Welch Boys shows, and they. I think as the internet grew, we got more exposure out of that. I love like you. I love local rock. For 20 years, I've done a TV show. I try to do an episode a month called Sonic Lobotomy, and we get local bands on. We've had Dark Buster on, and I do that at the access cable in Salem, Mass.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think people are proud of their local music in Boston, and they support the scene. And there's really a lot of clubs to play. People complain, oh, there's nowhere to play. There are a bunch of good clubs in Boston to play, and people show up to see bands. It's been pretty consistent in the 20 years the Welch Boys have been together. Sometimes we'll play a show and the room's half full still, but usually we get a good crowd for a show. And I started 2 years ago this side project, TJ Welch and The Wasted, with my son, who's 23. He plays guitar and I play guitar. And I'm surprised how quickly we were accepted in the scene. We can get gigs pretty easily, and we don't even have our record out yet. It's not coming out for another month or two.
Yeah. So I remember you announcing that band. Like, you're like, hey, I'm starting this other band. And then yeah, it seemed like you guys are getting gigs right away. It looked like.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, it helped that I was in the Welsh Boys before, but I just knowing a lot of people in the scene. People, other bands saying, "Hey, you want to play this show with us or that show?" I mean, we're playing the Midway this Friday with my buddy when I was engaged, the drummer Tony has a AC/DC tribute band now called ADHD, and we're playing with them on Friday. It's our first time playing with them, so it'll be interesting. We play all mostly originals, and we're opening up, and then they've got a real good singer, like a Bon Scott type singer.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited to play that Midway again. But yeah, it's at least in Boston, the community is strong and has been for many years, and kind of fluctuates, but it's a good scene with a lot of good bands and new bands coming up all the time.
Now tell me about playing music with your son. Being in bands for all these years, and then I think you said you had a band with your brother at one point.
Yeah.
Well, like playing with your son, does it add like anxiety to you, or because you don't want to see like you don't want to mess up in front of him or whatever, or is there any kind of like that thing? I remember being a kid and playing sports, and I played my worst games when my father would show up. You know what I mean? So, so is there anything like that?
No, it works pretty good. Me and him get along pretty good. My oldest boy. I've been trying. My middle boy is also a good singer and player, and he's a little more shy. I've been trying to get him to come up on stage and do a song or two here or there. But my oldest son, he's like me. He just likes to rock it out. A lot of my songs, I do most of the singing, and I write a lot of lyrics, sometimes too many, and I'll forget. Like he'll be over there, and I'll look over at him, and he's wording the words to me, so I remember him.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think he's probably a better overall musician than me. But hey, it's T.J. Welch and The Wasted, not Owen Welch and The Wasted. I'm going to take the guitar solos, not you. No, I mean, yeah, it's great having him in the band, and if I'd like to get everyone in the band singing songs. Our bass player sings a song, so I'll sit down and write a song with Owen soon, maybe, and have him sing it. And if he wants to do a solo in it, that's cool. But it's been good having this group of guys together. Other totally different than the Welch Boys. It's not going to help but sound like the Welch Boys, because I wrote a lot of the Welch Boys songs, but
I think they sound different, though. I think there's a different vibe between the two bands.
Yeah. I mean, I've got some country style songs in there, and generally it's more. I would describe it as more dad rock.
Yeah,
than punk rock.
I can see that. Yeah. It's good stuff, though. So when I was watching the Sonic Lobotomy episode where you guys played it, yeah, like I could see like with some of the shots they were doing like on stage for you guys, like you guys were having a lot of fun. It looked like, you know what I mean? And yeah, and he was singing with you at some points. And so when you write a song, like, and I think with the interview part of it, like was like you had said like some of these songs you were writing back, like you were writing during like when you were writing stuff for Welch Boys, but it wasn't like it didn't come out that way, right? It didn't sound like it was going to be a Welch Boys song or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of funny songs. There's a song called 54. I'm 54 and I like it. My hair is gray and my knees are sore. That wouldn't have our Welsh Boy singer wouldn't have sang that one. There's another song called "The Female Joey Ramone." Right, it's just about a pretty girl that I saw that looks like Joey Ramone. And it's a funny song, but it wouldn't. Welsh Boys. Like we're playing Oi. Punk rock, and
Yeah.
so that's part of the reason I kind of enjoy doing this T.J. Welch and The Wasted too, is because with the Welch Boys, we're kind of like AC/DC, right? We stick to a genre and a format. We don't pull out acoustic guitars. I mean, we are what we are, and that's what you get, And I like it. I don't really want to change it. I don't want to start doing ballads with the Welch Boys,
Right.
But
yeah, right.
T.J. Welch and The Wasted do whatever we want. If I wrote a song that sounds like Nick Drake, let's do it. And, so
I see these like it's cool to see like when because the older we all get, right? Like sometimes we just kind of we fall into the same momentum of like the same thing, like the redundancy of things, and we don't get a chance. We sometimes I think it has to. I think it's part fear, right? You do what you know, and you don't try to expand on anything creatively. But to see that like you're taking like you're having a lot of fun, like creating something different. Like that's cool. That's inspiring. That's inspiring for people. I think to see that like that you can still start something new no matter what, you know?
Yeah, and in turn, I've kind of been inspired by people like Rock and Bob Sensi. When I was 14, my favorite punk band was Jerry's Kids. They were faster than everyone else, louder, tighter, angrier. And Bob Sensi was their amazing guitarist. The guy went berserk live. There's a few YouTube clips of Jerry's Kids from the 80s where he just jumping around, lying on the floor with his guitar. But Sensi, over the years, since he still does occasional Jerry's Kids reunions, but has done his own bands, and they're quite different. And he's singing. He really didn't sing for Jerry's Kids. He's singing on this project. He's like me. He doesn't have the greatest voice, but he's writing songs that are quite different. And I saw that. That was kind of like inspired me. Hey, if Sensi can do it, I can do it. I actually
Mm.
had him on the Bob Sensi band on one of my episodes of Sonic Lobotomy. But yeah, so that's inspirational.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And it's also I feel like having two separate things like that, like they'll never. I feel like it's easier to not accidentally blend them. You know,
Yeah.
I think that works out. I think that works well. You know, um,
Although the Welch Boys think I'm taking all the good songs for the T.J. Welch and The Wasted. Nah, they're cool. They've been supportive. I think a
yeah,
few of them are coming out to see me on Friday, so that's good.
that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, that's always good. That's always good. So you said TJ Welch and the Wasted has an album coming out soon.
Yeah, we did 10 songs with the Benny Grotto studio in what Mad Oak Studio, maybe is that the name of it? Yeah, in Boston, like a year and a half ago, and we just did the basic tracks and been spending all the time layering it and putting keyboards and stuff. There's gonna be a lot of keys, organ, and pedal steel guitar, all sorts of shit in this album. It's gonna be quite different than anything Welch Boys, but it sounds good. I mean, I I can't wait to get it out there and try to get it out on vinyl.
Mm.
I'm gonna shop it around, see if I can get some. But I know at least I can get it out streaming
Hmm.
on the
Hmm.
streaming services. But I'd like to get a vinyl press on it and maybe play some more shows with the support of it.
Right on. Yeah. Would you with the band like you can kind of because of I think is it can you fit on because one you could fit on like any kind of bill really like a punk bill or like just like a rock and roll bill or whatever but like because you have the reputation of like the punk rock do like how often are you always like is it always a punk bill kind of thing or
No, no.
no
In fact, with the T.J. Welch and the Wasted, it's more rock and roll.
yeah that's
We'll play
awesome
with like the Super Suckers a few months ago. We'll play with just regular rock bands, or we could fit in a punk bill too. We still do a couple Welch Boys songs. I think we do Les Paul, and you got to do 617. So
hmm
we do that with the Wasted
yeah
until at least until we write more songs, right?
hmm
Um,
hmm
but yeah, so if Welch Boys is probably limited in who we could play with live, right? Punk shows or maybe metal bands. But with T.J. Welch and the Wasted, it's we'll play with anyone.
hmm hmm
Look, we're playing with an AC/DC tribute band Friday.
yeah
Yeah.
that's
So
awesome.
yeah.
Do you when you write music like do you know what you're writing for like what band or does it kind of come as you're writing?
Yeah, I pretty much know that. Hey, I want to write this as a Welsh Boys song. Although there is a song called "Dorchester Girl" that we do that I initially wanted to be a Welsh Boys song, and then I kind of stole it because the Welsh Boys weren't doing much at the time. This is when we lost our guitarist. We were
Hmm.
off for about a year, so I kind of used it for T.J. Welch and the Wasted, in the meantime. But now that the Welch Boys are doing a new record, and we can announce this live here now,
Yeah.
we're
I was
working
gonna
with
say I saw that yesterday.
yeah Chris at Autism Records down in Pennsylvania is has agreed to put out some vinyl for us. So we've got about 6 or 7 songs in the can now, and we're gonna do 3 more. We're gonna try to do a 10 song full length, and we're trying to get it done by the summer.
Mm.
So we've been coming over to my house, but I got flooded the other day, so my studio was had about a foot of water in it. That
Oh,
sucked. Yeah, first time in 20 years here, I get flooded, but it was just the perfect storm of ice and
ice.
nonstop
Yeah,
rain.
it was snowing and raining, and then it all went to ice. And that
Yeah,
this past, we're gonna get to old New England talk here, but like this past winter has, I mean, this current winter has been so bizarre. Like it's been super cold. More like it's
yeah.
usually cold, but like we've been in a cold snap for like I feel like 2 months now, and like when it snows, it just turns. It's either 45 degrees and it all melts, and then it freezes once the fucking sun goes down, or you know what I mean. It's been a strange winter.
Yeah, it does. We've had it easy the past few winters, and this one has got some teeth. It's not being easy. It's
Mm.
probably still be winter in April.
Yeah, yeah. How do you now? How when something like that happens with your equipment and stuff? Like, is it ruined, or can you? 'Cause you
Enough
said
of it was in racks, but it just
yeah.
sucks. Everything down there smells moldy, and I got pumps sucking water out, and there's still water leaking in now today.
Oh Jesus.
So it's just something I got to deal with. I got my buddy Larry. He was the guitar player for Kill Slug, so he's a construction guy. He's coming over tonight to take a look and see what we can do to prevent the water coming in.
Mm.
He's a good guy. In fact, Larry did that Agnostic Front show at Bridge 9 Records last month. It
Oh,
was
okay.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Larry helped do that.
Yeah. So, I want to kind of talk about Sonic Lobotomy a little bit because
Yeah.
I had found out about it a couple years ago. I think he had what's Billy Moonbeam's band called? The
Hellbound Hitman.
Hellbound Hitmen, great band.
Yeah.
I just had a brain fart. That's all. And I was like, oh, I'm like, this TJ Welch does this, so it's not like is it a YouTube thing or it's an actual like TV show that's on like cable like public access?
It's both.
It is.
I started it out about 2004 with a guy named Joe, who's not with us anymore. The hell's Joe's last name? Joe Macon. So
Mm-hmm.
Joe was he did the video for Les Paul and 617 for us. Early in the Welsh Boys history, he was a good ally. We used to take him on tour. He had a muscle disease. He was in a wheelchair. So like we played CBGB with the Dead Kennedys and we put his wheelchair up on stage.
Mm.
Uh, Joe was a good guy, but the muscle disease got the best of him and passed away about 10 years ago. But he and him started Sonic Lobotomy. Our first episode we had Dark Buster on, and
Oh, I watched that one last night.
yeah. There's about 85 episodes, all sorts of bands, mostly punk. Um, I try to do an episode a month, but I think most of the first half of this year I'm concentrating on. We shot the whole Sonic Lobotomy crew shot a New Year's show with all the who's of Boston rock, like
Nice.
Barrett Whitfield, John Butcher. At the cabin in Beverly, it sold out, and we shot it with like 6 cameras and did interviews. And I mean, I think we can get this thing even though it'll be a Sonic Lobotomy production. I think this thing is going to be so good that we could probably get it on Netflix or something.
Yeah, that's
It's going to
awesome.
be a good documentary.
Yeah,
So that's been eating up all my time. That's why I haven't done any Sonic Lobotomies.
yeah,
That and the 2 bands I'm in.
yeah. So, do you film like it? Do you get behind the camera too? Like, is this something like? How did you get into this? What made you want to go? Hey, I want to make a TV show, and this is what it's going to be because it's awesome. You know what it reminds? Like like they used to do all these shows. I remember all these like variety shows way back when I was a little kid that people would watch, and like they would have like the music acts and the interview process. So you kind of you just focusing on the musician, which is awesome. The musicians that are involved. So like where did this idea kind of come from?
I always liked local rock, and Joe Macon was real good with video. And I was able to get Danvers Access Television to let me come in there once a month for a few hours and do a show. And then eventually they moved, and we couldn't do loud music in their new location anymore, so we took it to Salem,
Mm.
Mass. And those guys are great, and I've been working with them for 10 years, and it's great. We show up if my son wants to come do camera, or my friend, or they have a staff. So we've always got people. Sometimes I'm behind the camera. Um, Sometimes I'll do some sound, but it's great. We've done 85 episodes, and I think when you're shooting in high definition in a real studio with real cameras and good sound, it's much better than video that you'd get from an iPhone at a club, right?
Yes. Yeah.
With the lights and all. So I think it's helped bands in that way. Some bands take the show and use it to promote them and get themselves bookings.
Yeah,
It
because it's good. It's good quality. You know what I'm saying. Like you're using like legit TV equipment, right? You're using like their
Yeah.
like. How does that like? What's the overhead on that? Like, does it cost money to be able to go to public access and do something like this? Or
No, it doesn't. If you live in the town, and I don't even live in Salem, but I know people who that live in Salem, so I'm allowed to do it there.
hmm
But if you live in a big metropolis town, and chances are there is a public access facility, and it's free.
mm.
And if you can talk them into getting rock bands in there, go for it. You know, so there is no budget or overhead. I haven't thrown any. I don't think I've thrown any money into the show.
Mm.
I mean, I could go out on YouTube and promote it and throw $100 a month to get it so I get more hits, but I don't. I don't. I just kind of. I think it's beautiful the way it is, where we're not beholden to any commercial. I don't have to get on the show and say our sponsor is this or that.
Yeah, yeah,
It's to me that gives me the freedom to have whatever we want and do whatever we want. So there really is no budget. I'm just using their gear. It's just my time.
yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. And again, you're like you're still involved in this music community out here. You're bringing these bands in, um, and and you did so the one you did for New Year's was like it's like going to be like a documentary.
Yeah, oh, we went all out on that. I mean, I'm good friends with Barrence Whitfield. Been around for years. A real good R&B type singer in Boston. Barrence Whitfield and the Savages. Been around since the '80s.
Mm.
And then I actually work for John Butcher occasionally. I'm his guitar tech, and he's like a real good blues Hendrix type player. He was, toured in the '80s was his prime time. He was big back then. WBCN used to play him. He had some few good albums out, and he's still at it. It still fills up rooms. He's an
Mm.
amazing guitar player. So, Barrence Whitfield organized the night at the Cabot. It holds about 800 people. It's a big theater in Beverly, next town over. And he got all different players to play that night. It was a special night. He got Butcher to play. He got Sal Baglio from the Stompers. He got some local legendary Boston players, and they did play for a couple of hours and just got the room on their feet. And I know Barrence. I pitched it to him over dinner one night. I says, "Hey, can I shoot your show?" And they actually, to practice together for the show, they came over to Salem Access Studios
Oh,
and,
nice.
and worked out the songs before the show. So we got
hmm
them practicing and put the songs together. Then we got them the whole night. We shot it with like 6 cameras. And it was great performance. And then after that, I brought Barrence in and interviewed him, kind of like I would in Sonic Lobotomy. And now comes a fun part, editing it all together, which I've got the good fortune of having people at Salem Access that are going to do that because
Nice.
I hate editing.
I know it gets tedious. It gets so tedious.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's probably going to take about 6 months, but I think we're going to get definitely better than the usual episode of Sonic Lobotomy.
Yeah.
It's going to be more in depth, and um, from what I've seen so far, it looks real good. I told the guys, everyone in the production, all the bands and musicians, hey, I want this to be kind of like the band, The Last Waltz. Let's get you, all these different camera angles, good quality, good sound,
Mm.
and spice the movie up with clips and interviews and making it a feature length, hour and a half. So,
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. That's good because there's like, I remember like, you know, when radio stations did a lot of local stuff still, and we don't have that anymore. But you're still broad, whether you're doing it for just YouTube or you're doing it for public access and YouTube, like you're broadcasting locals still, and that's, to me, that's awesome. Like I'm a big fan of that, and that's kind of like when this podcast kind of went to like this music thing. Like I was like, I really wanted to do that. I wanted to be able to showcase people, like, because like there's bands, there's bands out here that like deserve to be on that big stage, and it's just like there's so many, like, just no one's ever gonna make it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not for any reason other than like you just don't have that opportunity anymore, right? It doesn't happen as often as it used to. So yeah, man, my hat's off to you for doing that.
Me and you were doing the same thing.
Yeah.
We're doing it because we love the music, and we're taking, we're consistently doing something.
Yeah, I
So
just
a lot of people do this for a week or two or a show or two. When you've done something over the years.
Yeah,
That's a commitment.
yeah, and I haven't missed a week of a podcast episode since 2020, end of 2020. So, like, I'm crazy though. Like we have like monthly shows that come out on Fridays too for doing other things. So like I'm constantly like it's a second job, man. And now like we started this conversation. You were saying like you're retired, but like you do a lot of things, man. You have two bands. You have two bands that are active. Not only are they active, they're both putting out records soon. You have a TV show that you do, and then and now you're doing this documentary too. You have a busy year. 2025 seems like a busy year for TJ Welch.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know what it is. I'm like a dynamo. I just keep going. I think I have some type of ADHD or autism that may be undiagnosed. Ultra focused
Yeah,
on
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah,
I
I hyperfixate on shit all the time, and so I try to do it for stuff that's creative and less on stuff like actual work.
Yeah, yeah. Although I've
It's a
been
better
tempted to go
reward.
back to work.
It's a better reward, though. You feel better when you do something creatively, I think.
Yeah, being retired, you try to fill your time up where you previously were working. Yeah. I've been retired for a year. I kind of, I don't know. I've been tempted to go back to work.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's just weird. I can't explain it.
Yeah, yeah. Now, is there any kind of this is gonna I don't know. This is gonna drop probably around April. Is there anything like around April that you know of that you want to promote right now?
No, I think probably in the May-June time frame will be both the Welch Boys' new vinyl and TJ Welch and The
Oh
Wasted.
wow.
So this summer you're going to get hit with a lot of new stuff from us, from me, and we really don't have any shows scheduled for either band right now on the books. But I would imagine we'll fill up with some gigs for the summer.
Mm-hmm.
We'll probably play around Boston. Would like to play some East Coast shows. We always like playing down in Connecticut. Big shout out to Joaquin, who books all the Connecticut shows. We want to play New York with our friends in Chumhuffer. They're a New York band. We wouldn't mind playing some shows with Bone Crusher. Now, Bone Crusher are good friends of ours from LA. We've toured Europe with them a few times. So they're getting back in the saddle as well after some setbacks. So perhaps, where we did that split with Bone Crusher, right? The split vinyl a few years ago. Maybe we'll do something with them. Would
Nice.
certainly Europe, maybe again. We like playing in Europe.
Yeah, everyone likes playing in Europe, man. Because they love music more than Americans do.
Yeah, it's kind of
other than the select few of us. You know what I mean?
yeah, it's true. They don't know how big or small you are in Europe, right?
Yeah,
So
they
I
just
encourage
love.
any band to make the effort to go over there because people will show up especially if you get on tour with a band like the Drowns or Bone Crusher or something, or you know, and they do appreciate the fact that American bands are making it over there, even though they may not like our political situation now.
Yeah. I don't either, so I'm with
No, me
them.
neither. Me neither.
um cool. All right, so I'm gonna, but from one interviewer to another, where do I grade? Am I like a hard C?
Oh no, you're great. You ask all the questions because people who are listening want to get. That's what I think when I interview, right? And you're just like me. You want to get inside the person's head, find out, why they
Yeah,
doing this, and maybe that'll be inspirational to another artist who's watching.
yeah, no doubt. Yeah. Now where can people find TJ Welch and The Wasted online? Where can they find the Welch Boys online? Where can they pick up music from well, you don't have anything out yet, quite yet, for TJ Welch and The Wasted, but where can people find the music to grab?
Well, we're both bands are pretty gonna. Well, TJ Welch and Wasted will be releasing some stuff on all the major Spotify and all that, Apple, all the major streaming services. That'll happen probably in May or June, as well as the new Welch Boys record. Welch Boys have about 50 songs out there. 4, 5 CDs splits, whatever, on Spotify and all the streaming services. We've got some songs on what's that other music site for new bands? Shit.
Bandcamp.
Yeah, Bandcamp. I think we've even got some songs on Bandcamp. Um, we've got a presence on Instagram and Facebook. Both TJ Welch and The Wasted and the Welch Boys. There are links in our Facebook page to get to merch. We have merch, on-demand merch agreements, where you get a Welch Boys shirt.
Nice.
Um, we try to promote our shows and throw gig posters out there and spread them around the web. Um, so yeah, pretty much if you just Google the Welch Boys, you're going to get a ton of videos on YouTube. There's always someone in our shows aiming a camera at us, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Uh, and even TJ Welch and The Wasted is the same. I mean, we did a whole show last year with a bunch of bands for Dean Jackson Memorial at Sonya, and we played with the guys, Jerry's Kids, the FUs. So we opened that show up, and Sale Max's video filmed the whole thing with like 3 cameras. It looks good, so
Nice.
that's out there. TJ Welch and The Wasted live at Sonya.
Yeah.
Uh, we're gonna do some videos. March 9th, we're doing a video at my friend's bar. The Wasted, TJ Welch and The Wasted, doing a video for Dorchester Girl. So when we get that video done, we'll put it out there.
Cool. Cool.
The Welch Boys have done videos over the years for a lot of our songs. I think even though MTV's long gone, it's cool to have.
Yeah. There's an art form with it too, and I feel like it's still needed. I feel like music videos are still needed.
Yeah, yeah. And
What about
shows.
vinyl? What about if someone wants to grab physical media for the Welch Boys right now?
We don't have as much of that as we'd like to. Our last album is out on vinyl. It's called Bring Back the Fight, and you can get that through the label. What the hell's the label? That came out on. Jeez. Was that? I see. I'm drawing a blank on what label that album came, but it's the album with the hockey player on it, right?
Yep.
You can
Yep.
get that out there in vinyl. If you just look on Amazon or whatever, it's probably.
I think I got one. I got that when you guys played the Midway. I grabbed one that you guys had.
Yeah, they gave us a box of 100. We probably still got 20. But that is and then Last Punk Rockers Records has the split that we did with Bone Crusher, and they're out of Germany, but they'll
Yep.
ship to the U.S. Last
Sailor's
Punk
Grave
Rock.
Records. That's who has. That's who
Sailor's
has.
Grave, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
Sailor's Grave kind of is somewhat defunct now. Great guys, but it's just a tough business to make any money. So,
Yeah.
but I'm sure they still have some vinyl available in Sailor's Grave. And then our new one, the new Welsh Boys, will be out. They're going to print some vinyl at Oitism Records.
Nice.
Oitism.
What if now with Sonic Lobotomy? Is there like a waiting list if people want to like reach out to you and talk about coming on, or are you like me? You just pick who you want it to be.
Yeah, it's a little of each. It's a little of each. I'll chase a band, but since it's nonprofit, we can't pay a band, so yeah, I can't really get the more popular bands. It's hard to get them, right? But up and coming bands, they'll either reach out to me or vice versa. Or
Mm-hmm.
my son will turn me on to a band. I've had some of his friends' bands on, and Uh, or I'll go out and play with other bands, and I'll get blown away by a band and try to chase them to come on.
Mm.
Uh, so it's a little of each, yeah.
So how do they reach out to you if someone wants to kind of connect with you?
You can just probably best to go to my TJ Welch Facebook page,
Okay,
or go to the Sonic Lobotomy Facebook page. I think there's an Instagram page for Sonic Lobotomy.
cool.
I don't do the best job of online marketing.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I just started doing like all of our social media myself, and I'm like, this is awful.
Well, you know what it is, Trev. At the end of the day, Facebook wants you to kick them a few $100 to get more
Yeah,
looks,
yeah.
and
I'm
I
not.
was never cool with that.
No, me neither.
I'm not going to spend the money that could be feeding my kids just to get so more people see a post.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I'm like you. I won't do that either. So
I
you
mean,
know,
you like and subscribe is understood. If you go to Sonic Lobotomy's YouTube page, hopefully you like and subscribe. And I'm not going to come on the beginning of every episode and go hit like and
yeah, I
subscribe.
don't do that either.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's automatic. I'm not going to get down on my knees and beg you.
yeah, yeah. Right on. Well, TJ, man, this was awesome. Thanks for coming on and talking with me. And I'm looking forward to new music from you this year.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one, and I appreciate you letting me come on your show, Trev, and evangelize all my creative efforts.
Yeah,
And I want to thank you for what you do with your podcast,
thank you. Yeah,
for all the artists like myself.
I'm just giving back to the music that's helped me in my whole life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that doesn't go unappreciated. I really appreciate it.
Well, listen, the door's always open. You guys, when you put out a record, if you want to come back and talk about it, let me know. We'll have you back on.
That sounds good. Maybe I'll get the other guys. Maybe Ed. Maybe I'll get Ed to come on. The singer. He's the face of the band.